There's my audience right there. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to tell the story of Rumpelstiltskin because a lot of people probably haven't even heard it because I hadn't until like a couple months ago. So I'm just going to start. Once there was a poor miller who had a beautiful daughter. He had to go and speak to the king one day, and in order to make himself appear more important, he said to him, "I have a daughter that can spin straw into gold." The king was impressed, so he ordered for her to be brought to him that night. When she arrived at the castle, the king told her if she did not spin the straw to gold, she would have to die the next morning. And at that, he turned, locked her in the room, all frightened and alone. After a while, a little man comes into the room asking why she's crying. She explains that if she doesn't spin the straw into gold, she has to die in the morning. He asks what she'll give to him if he can do it for her, so she offers him her necklace. He accepts and spins all the gold to straw before the king arrives the next morning. The king saw what she could do, and he ordered for her to do it again that night. He said the same thing. If she could not do it, she would have to die by morning. As she's sitting there crying and alone, the little man comes in and asks her for something again. She said, "I'll give you the ring on my finger." The little man sits and he spins a straw all morning and night. By the time that the king gets there the next morning, he's impressed. He didn't think she could do it again. So he wants more. He says if she succeeds, she can be his wife come the next morning. The little man comes in again after he leaves. She explains to him, "I have nothing left to give." He says, "Okay, fine. If you should become queen tomorrow, you must give me your firstborn child." She sits there and thinks, this is never going to happen. So she agrees. The next morning, whenever the straw is all gold, the king agrees to make her his queen. About a year later, she conceives a child. The little man comes to her and demands for the baby. She cries, "Please, just don't take my child." He says, "I'll give you an offer. If you have 3 days to try and guess my name, and if by the third day you can guess what it is, you can keep your child." So the first night she thinks for hours and hours, and she sends a messenger into the country to tell all the names that she knew. It was wrong. The next day she thinks all day of what could possibly be. She sends a messenger with all the names that she thought were quirky and weird that nobody would have. It was wrong. The third night, the messenger's walking through the country to try and find the man. He finds him in his house saying, "Today I bake, tomorrow brew. The next day I'll have the young queen's child. Glad I am that no one knows that I'm Rumpelstiltskin." So the little man comes the next morning to deliver the news to her himself. He says, "Do you know my name?" At first she says, "Is your name Conrad?" He says, "No." She said, "Is it Harry?" And he says, "No." She says, "Perhaps your name is Rumpelstiltskin." The little man cried and threw a tantrum so big that whenever he stomped his foot into the ground, his leg gets stuck. As he tries to pull his leg up with both arms, he pulled so hard that he ripped himself in two. The end. So that was my speech. Here's my audience again. Yay!
Yay!